Okay, let's go ahead and go over the solutions for prepare for finding area. Now, you began working on page 305 and 306 on your own. Now, let me show you. So I have, here are the answers for what you should have in your squares. I'm going to read them with you to make sure you understand them. And then if we need to draw pictures or you need to pause and add it to yours, you can do that. So square unit in your own words. A square unit is an area of a square with a side length of 1 unit. Now remember, down here is the example. So we can have 1 inch by 1 inch. So remember, a square has 4 equal sides. So we could have a 1 inch by 1 inch unit square. We could also have a 1 foot by 1 foot. Notice it's 1 foot and 1 foot. That means it's a square, so we can use that to measure. We could also use a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square, and that would be a square inch would match this one. We have a square foot, and we have a square centimeter. And up here, if you want to, a square unit would be a square with 1 unit as the length and 1 unit as the width. Square units are used to measure area. And remember, area is everything on the inside. It is the space that is covered. It is the space covered. So write down anything that will help you to remember all these words that you need to know for this lesson. Now, here's an illustration. They've drawn a rug and they put unit squares on the inside. They gave square units here, 1 unit by 1 unit. And notice that for our rug, how many square units do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we could say that this is 6 square units. A non-example. Okay, a square unit is not a line. This is not a square unit. A circle is not a square unit. Notice it's not a square, so it can't be a square unit. An inch, so if this is an inch, a foot, or a centimeter, those are not square units because they are only 1 dimension. A square unit has 2 dimensions. Okay, if you need to pause and fill any of this in, go ahead and do that. Now we're going to use what we learn to answer the rest of the questions. Okay, number 2 asked you, how do you think you could measure the area of the rug to the right in square units? Now, just like we did in our example, I looked at the little grid lines. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I have a hard time seeing it with this camera. Okay, so notice my grid lines. So what I noticed is I could take my carpet and I can just slide it over just a touch, and it actually fits within the lines of my square units. Now I noticed if I wanted to count them, I could. So first thing I would do is move the rug to fit the square units. I would just kind of slide it a little bit down and to the right. Then I would count the square units. I notice that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I kind of had to visualize that, but this is equal to 15 square units. So that's how I can use square units to measure the rug. Okay, let's zoom back out and make sure I'm not missing anything on your picture. Okay, page 306. Okay, number 3. Circle the rug below that you think shows the correct way to use square units to measure its area. Okay, let's talk about what we notice and then we'll circle the right one. I noticed that this one is organized, right? This one's organized. This one has square units covering all of the shape. I noticed that there are no gaps and there's no overlap. What do you notice about this shape? I've kind of labeled it. Let's take a look at, see if you did the same thing. I noticed that the squares are not covering the whole shape. I also notice it's not organized. They're just kind of laid out randomly. I notice that there is overlap where the squares are laying on top of each other in lots of different spots. I also notice there's lots of gaps. So notice they didn't cover the whole shape with squares. So which one is the correct way to measure our area? If you pick this one, you are correct. Now you'll need to explain why. These are the things you should have talked about in your explanation. You should have said that unit squares cover the whole shape here. There are no gaps and there's no overlap. In number 5, they asked you, what is the area of the rug and square units? Now we just have to go back and count since it's all nice and neat. And you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It is 10 square units. Okay, nice job on lesson 14, session 1. I'll see you tomorrow.